All right. And no, Julie, we're not having technical difficulties tonight. I was just screwing around waiting for Mario to catch up, and then he was waiting for me to catch up, and boom, here we are. It's Friday night. It's after 8 o'clock, and it's the Brushfire Mind. And this week, we're going to talk about what stupid thing did Ocasio Cortez say. But mostly what we're going to talk about, we'll get to that in a minute, maybe, if we have time. Here's what I really want to talk about tonight. Censorship, censorship, censorship. Before I get into the newest bout, let's just do a quick recap. So for several years now, since really I think the conversation about online censorship started to really kick off right before Trump announced throwing his hat into the ring for the primary. But once Donald Trump was in for the presidential primary, censorship really became an issue, something that people were talking about, and something that we should be talking about because it's a problem. It's a real threat to liberty. Now,
can you say any examples? You got any examples of that? Because I didn't see a major censorship push until after Trump won, and basically half the websites that I routinely visited were gone in a matter of 6 months.
Yeah. So let's get to that. That's exactly where I was going with it. So there's a particular personality, and I'm bringing this one up because this will bring all around full circle. Sargon of Akkad, Carl Benjamin, he's like the 130th largest channel on YouTube, highest subscribed channel on YouTube. PewDiePie, of course, is tippy top number one. PewDiePie has been the top subscriber getter and top earner. I mean, we're talking millions a month in ad revenue, just ridiculous. And the guy basically just has a funny accent. It's kind of a pretty boy and makes bad jokes about video games. And PewDiePie has run afoul of the censorship brigade once or twice. But Carl Benjamin, Sargon of Akkad, he really got his start during a scandal that's referred to as Gamergate. At first I hated the use of the word gate as a tack on to mean scandal, but actually it works. It's a good functional shorthand that we can use. And if you say, oh, it's Hillary Gate or it's email gate or Russia Gate or whatever, then I don't have to explain more to a person for them to at least understand in the context that, oh, we're talking about a political scandal that's related to this subject. Okay, cool. So it's a pretty effective and efficient linguistic shorthand. So Gamergate had to do with a bunch of gaming magazines. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on it, but just kind of broad strokes. A bunch of gaming magazines pushing this SJW stuff. This was in 2015. Okay.
Yep.
I'll pull it up.
It's like late 2015. So
let's see what Wikipedia says. I bet it's a pretty left-leaning claim. It always is. The Gamergate controversy stemmed from a harassment campaign conducted primarily through the use of hashtag Gamergate. The controversy centered on issues of sexism and progressivism in video game culture. It is used as a blanket term for the controversy as well as for the harassment campaign and actions of those participating in it. In August 2014, the harassment campaign targeted several women in the video game industry. Oh, so it was a harassment campaign targeting Zoe Quinn, Brianna Wu, and Anita Sarkeesian.
Sargon's nemesis, Anita Sarkeesian.
Really? 4chan or Wikipedia lists it as a
Okay.
harassment campaign targeted against these women.
In a from so Okay, so Gamergate was basically it was like that. It was that entry, that gateway red pill for a lot of people in their 20s, right? A lot of the younger Gen Z types
Yeah.
who were not politically engaged whatsoever, right? But what happened was basically the last bastion of male entertainment, male hobby like video gaming, was then becoming under attack by SJW culture. Okay, so it pushed people who were not politically involved at all to actually get involved into politics. So it was very like 4chan participated very heavily in it, and a lot of guys like Forever Computing, Sargon of Akkad, a lot more basically not hard right creators who get labeled alt right anyway. You know what I mean? So a lot of those guys got their start from in the Gamergate, saga, if you will. So it's a precursor. It was definitely the precursor to the 2016 meme war, which was explicitly political.
Correct. So basically, wow, coordination of harassment, organization, harassment in Twitter, ethics in journalism. Okay, so I encourage you guys to go and read up on what happened in Gamergate, because this Wikipedia article is an absolute travesty of just hyper partisan left wing propaganda. To call it a harassment campaign, it was a harassment campaign being conducted by so-called gamer journalists like Anita Sarkeesian and them, who they said things like, "Oh, people who play video games are just these gross old sexist, racist, white fat boys living in their mommy and daddy's basements." And y'all realize that you're talking about a billions of dollars industry, right? Entertainment industry. This is okay. To put video games in perspective, the video game Red Dead Redemption, not the new one, not Red Dead Redemption 2, the original Red Dead Redemption is the single highest dollar grossing entertainment enterprise of any kind in history. Red Dead Redemption, the original, has literally outsold every single other media entertainment enterprise ever. It made more money than the highest earning films, than the highest earning novel series. We're talking about a video game. It outsold Harry Potter the book. It outsold the Harry Potter movie franchise. It may not have outsold the entire Harry Potter film franchise, but it outsold every single film in the franchise.
It'll just be a few minutes, okay?
Say again?
Basically, I was going to cut in, and this ties into you talk about the censorship in independent media, censorship of the new media. So, as you stated, the video game industry is immensely profitable and is growing in profitability, whereas Hollywood and TV are losing revenue. Okay, like it's becoming it rivals the other major media. So it was only natural that the left would have to attack it and infect it with all of the isms that they use as billy clubs on anyone who's an independent thinker. So that was their first attempt at it, and they failed miserably. Not via harassment, from not the pushback not being harassment, but the most powerful weapon, ridicule. They were ridiculed until they lost. So not that the left never really loses. They just they lose a battle and they try again. But they lost a battle. Kind of like the 2016 election. They lost a battle. The war continues.
And so one thing about video games generally, it's the only free market sector that is not dominated and controlled by women. Contrary to popular belief and all these SJW nutbags that want you to think that men just freeze women out of everything, the fact of the matter is that women control the market. Women make more market buying decisions than men. And that is true in every market sector, with very few exceptions. And among those very, very few exceptions are video games. You know, you think about the film industry. When's the last time you saw an action movie that didn't have a love story? Because daddy's not going to go watch the movie if he can't take a date. Right? You see little tea rooms popping up all over the place, but when's the last time you saw a bar brawl and meat on the bone themed restaurant? Women have massive market control, and that's fine. That's we're men. That's what we do. We go and earn money so that our wives can spend it. That's how it's supposed. That's how it's always been. You know, we used to go and club mammoths so that our wives could eat them. You know, I mean, it is what it is. So, I keep almost saying 4chan instead of Gamergate. What Gamergate was all about was basically there's this sector that is not market controlled by women, and a bunch of women got together and got involved in I guess the word journalism can be used here, and started writing all these incredibly just mean and nasty attack articles against people that play video games. Now, part of their claims are that video games are themselves sexist and portray women as they're terrible because they make women out to look like they're attractive and pleasant and enjoyable to be around. God forbid we think that. But now, in fairness, there are some complaints by one of the things that these women are complaining about is the objectification of women. No, just shut the fuck up. There is not a woman out there who complains about the bikini-clad chicks in Fight or Die that hasn't at least ogled a firefighter calendar. You know, that door swings both ways, so shut your fuckholes. Now, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little
realistic in video games either. I mean,
say again.
I said the men aren't exactly realistic either.
Correct.
It's fantasy. It's fantasy.
Exactly.
It's what it's supposed to be.
Now, one of the complaints, probably I might say the most legitimate complaint, and that is a stretch. I am really stretching my tolerance of the abuse of the language using the word legitimate in this context. But the complaint that you can pick up and abuse and murder whores, hookers in the Grand Theft Auto franchise. Okay, so don't play that game? I mean, if that's not your flavor of catharsis, don't. It's not my flavor of catharsis. You know, when I need a little catharsis, I don't think about hookers. I think about shooting people. Because I mean, let's be real. I mean, Mario, I'm doing good, right? I haven't shot anybody in like 7 years and 4 months. 6 months. Yeah. Doing good. So,
yep.
I mean, that's hard.
I think you've
and, you know, they didn't even give me a damn coin.
Coin? What?
You know, like AA.
Oh yeah, you you need like a celebrate recovery from shooting people or something.
Yeah, I need a, I need a KA, I need a KA
one
token.
one day at a time. One day.
One day at a time. One day at a time.
So, so
I
you
wonder
kind
if
of went off.
recovering addicts clean their crack pipes the way I clean my M4.
So you went wildly off on a tangent immediately into the start of the show. So if I may try to pull you back in a
Yes.
little bit, we're talking
So
about Sargon of Akkad, right?
that's
So
that's
okay,
where the that's where all the censorship stuff really started to unfold and become an actual problem was with the Gamergate thing, and that's where Sargon of Akkad got his start. Sargon was a video game player. The name Sargon of Akkad is his game handle. He still plays games. He still streams his gameplays, but he also talks politics. His political analysis is excellent. He's not always right, but his depth, his the work that he does to produce the political analysis produces. Um, I agree with Sargon on maybe about 70%. And let's be real. Sargon says he's on the left. What he really means is that he doesn't understand what the difference is between the left and the right in America. And his understanding of the left in Great Britain is the understanding of something that has long since no longer been the case for politics, even in Europe.
so what the thing is that makes it even more shocking that he would be. Well, he's been deplatformed off Twitter several times, and I think he's lost his PayPal first, and now he's lost his Patreon account. Is that correct?
No, he
So,
in the video that he did about it, he said he has not lost his PayPal yet.
right. Well, the thing is, the guy, he's not even right wing, right? But he's being attacked. Okay. So I think what it
Yeah,
shows
he's
you is
a
that the mask is slipping. The mask is slipping here with big tech, masters of the universe. You know, there's lots of handles you put on these people, but basically the node of power that is Silicon Valley over media and particularly the new media. So what they don't want alternative at all. Okay, it used to be, they claimed that the people were Nazis and they were shutting down, and that's why they're justified to censor them. They're not even trying to do that anymore. It's just alternative media or anything. They're the magic four-letter word that the left uses, as magic against anyone that they dislike. Hate. Anything they dislike is hate, and hate can be shut down. But it's not going to stop there. So what you're going to see next probably is Jared Taylor of American Renaissance. He's gone from Twitter. You're going to see Grimlick from VDare, which Virginia Dare. Some of you don't know. Further right, and you're going to see Professor and Donald. Okay.
hey Mario, hold still or get closer to your router because you're starting to sputter out on us.
I guess my point is it won't stop. They want to shut down alternative voices. Period. All right, because it's a threat. The fact that it exists is a threat. The Holy Grail, I think, the Holy Grail for them would be having Breitbart lose its discus. You know what I mean? Or Breitbart basically losing its domain. So the Holy Grail would be Breitbart. When do you think they come for Stefan?
I don't imagine it'll be terribly long. Yeah, I don't think it'll be very long at all.
So I don't know what can even be done about it. Like I mean, we had this conversation in a thread, earlier, talked about alternative, and basically when all the companies are ideologically in lock. Sorry, we have a guest.
Hey, little one.
Say hi. Wow. What a nice baby. All right. It's the kid's bedtime, man. I'm sorry. I gotta let you go.
All right, brother.
Real. This is reality. Right? Okay. Good night, guys.
Hey, good night, Mario. Okay, so what Mario was about to touch on, and I'm going to hit this for just a minute. Mario was about to touch on the question of what can be done about the censorship situation. So Sargon has just been censored off of Patreon. So let me pull Patreon's numbers up too. I'm about to talk about Google as well. Okay, so one of the problems with trying to deal with this whole censorship question. On the one hand, we have the First Amendment that says we have the freedom of speech, and that freedom of speech is not to be infringed. Now, the cheap argument that the lefties are always going to throw at you is, well, what about yelling fire in a crowded theater? And it's call to action. You don't even have to justify that with a response, because that's the kind of bullshit, weak ass argument that comes up in a debate so that you can dismiss it and get to real arguments. The curtailment of individual liberty to speak is absolutely forbidden by the Constitution. To call for harm to be done to somebody, to make a specific call to action, is a different matter. And I don't even necessarily agree with that position, but under the law, that's the case. Now, on the other hand, if YouTube wants to ban somebody, Patreon wants to ban somebody, Twitter, so on and so forth, they're private companies. So the private companies also have the freedom to speak, the freedom of expression, and more importantly, for this argument, the freedom of association. Well, the pretty pickle that we find ourselves in is the fact that there is no more public square. People don't go to the square and speak where people gather to hear them. That public square where people do their speaking is now Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, etc. So to be censored from one of those platforms is not unlike being censored from the public square. There is the question of compelling a private company to let you speak. So before I get into the correct answer here, let me give you one of the key arguments that needs to be discussed. Ben Shapiro brings this one up often, and he's not wrong. If YouTube, Facebook, and the like are going to make decisions on what content is and is not to be allowed, that makes them not a platform, but rather a publisher with editorial responsibility, which means that if people on their platform libel or slander people, then let's say I made a YouTube video where I called somebody a nasty name, or better yet, made an accusation without evidence, that person could sue me for slander. And I need to look up whether video counts as slander or libel, because slander is a spoken utterance. Libel is written, like in a newspaper. Video recording must fall under libel. because there's a record of it. There's a repeatable, shareable, copyable record of it. That must fall under libel. That's a question I need to answer. I need to get answered later. So the fact of the matter is that, like any newspaper or magazine, if these social media platforms are going to make editorial decisions about the content that's published on their pages, that means that they are choosing to accept responsibility for that content. So if you're to libel or slander somebody on YouTube, so on and so forth, and they want to come after you for a redress of grievances, for recompense, they want to file suit, they should also be filing suit against Google and the like, and whatever platform it is. That platform is now responsible for that content. I want to take it a step further. I'm going to share a little something with you. This is a report from the subsidy tracker of specific individual subsidies paid out to Google. Okay. Property tax abatement, tax credit rebate, so on and so forth. Training reimbursement. Okay, you're seeing this, hundreds of thousands of dollars, $250,000, $2 million, $23.8 million, $81 million, $360 million, just tax credits galore in gigantic amounts, including a $63 million, almost $64 million federal loan. So when you start talking about the idea that we're discussing legislating and causing affirmative action to be taken by a private company, here's the fact. Google is not a private company. Google is a subsidized company. Google is a private company to as great an extent as any oil company that is subsidized by the government. And those companies are the oil companies, the medical device companies, medical research companies, state colleges, and the like. Those are government-funded entities, and they are regulated as such. So the question is not whether or not it is lawful or constitutional to compel compliance by a company like Google. The question is, why is our government not picking up its correct responsibilities and enforcing the First Amendment and protecting citizens? No, okay, Sargon, not a citizen. Milo, not a citizen. But the whole censorship thing has gotten after citizens. Ben Shapiro has been censored. Hell, this channel with both of our viewers has actually been demonetized and red flagged, and we've had videos removed and the whole censorship thing. And when I say demonetized, I mean that we have technically been demonetized. We don't actually make any money here. This is something I do in my basement for the fun of it. But I've actually had videos flagged as not suitable for advertising, which is what it means, what they mean when they say that they got demonetized. So that's where I think we are on this question, is the fact that these censorious, monstrous companies, these big tech Silicon Valley shitburgers, are heavily government subsidized. And that's just what they get from U.S. government subsidy. I shudder to imagine what I would find if I started digging into their European connections. Because they're subsidized, they do not need to be treated like private companies. They are not private companies. In fact, I would go so far, I would take it one step further and say that each of the companies that we're talking about, these censorious monstrosities, they're not only government funded, but they are clearly ideologically in support of the seizure of the means of production, as they would call it. They've already surrendered as their means of production to the government as such. As much as I hate that having occurred, hey, my government is constrained by a constitution, and that constitution says fuck your censorship. So it's time to walk in and shut them down. That's enough of that shit. So that's my argument. I'm going to let that stand on its own. And that's the show for tonight. So thanks for tuning in tonight, and please like, share, and subscribe. Share us all over YouTube and Facebook. Get these help me get these numbers up, and I will see you guys next Sunday night at 8 o'clock. Until then, remember, if you build a man a fire, you'll keep him warm for the evening. But if you set a man on fire, he'll be warm for the rest of his life. Good night.